Hello and welcome to raisedbedgardener.com. Excuse me for squinting because this is a very sunny day in the second half of March. What we're going to do here is we're going to show you how to plant lettuce seeds. It's very simple. The first thing to do is to choose a good variety of lettuce. You don't want one of the big sprawling ones, you want something compact that's going to grow reasonably quickly. And we would suggest that a very good one, well tried and trusted, is Little Gem. It's available easily over the internet and also readily available in your garden centre and also your local DIY store. They will stock them. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to sow Little Gem. What we will do after we've done that is we will sow another variety in a pot. Now this one's called a red salad bowl, and we suspect that in the raised bed it might occupy a little too much room to be really worthwhile, but we're going to have a go in a pot and see what happens, and if it's any good then we'll try it in our raised bed next year. But if you grow it in a container, it's very similar to the same methods of growing something like Little Gem. So the first thing about lettuce is not to sow the lettuce seeds all in one go, because you will simply end up with a glut and most of the lettuce will get wasted. So what you need to do is you need to sow them over maybe an 8-week period, starting, as I say, in the second half of March, and sow them at weekly intervals. Now what we're going to do is we're going to sow up through about there, so half a length of this raised bed. That will give us probably 3, maybe even 4 lettuces. Now we like to harvest our lettuces when they're young, sweet and tender, so we could probably easily get 4 lettuces in here. If you're going to let something like this get to its full size, you probably get 2, 3 at the most, but it's up to you. So if we do this in this week, we'll get 3 or 4 lettuces. The next week we'll sow that lot, and that will give us 3 or 4 more lettuces, and then we'll sow 2 or 3 rows of this, and we'll spread them over 1 or 2 weeks each sowing. So that'll give us a fair amount of lettuces over a long period of time. So how do you sow them? It's very simple. Just take a trowel or say something like a dibber and just make a small groove in the soil here. Now we're going to sow these very shallow. If you read the packet, it's interesting. This packet is from B&Q. It says to sow them 13 millimeters deep. Now if you know anything about millimeters and centimeters, it's impossible to sow them 13 millimeters deep in soil, because 13 millimeters is so minuscule that if you tried to tell the difference between 13 millimeters and 16 millimeters, you just would never know. So basically, ignore the instructions on the pack, just sow them very, very shallowly. So we're going to put them in there and then just sprinkle over a light bit of compost over the top. So we've got our groove there, and what we'll do is we'll just focus the camera on the action going on here. So excuse me if I get up and just focus the camera in there. Okay, so we've refocused the camera, and all we're going to do is tip out just a little bit of lettuce seed into our hand, and then starting there, let's just do it with our hand so you can see what's going on. Just gently tap my hand and reasonably thinly sow the lettuce seed. They're reasonably good at germination, so you don't need to sow them too thickly. And that should be about enough. And just take a bit of compost from somewhere else in the raised bed and just gently break it in your hand over the top of the groove where you've sown the lettuce. And that will do fine. Then of course we've got to mark them, and we mark them from beginning to end, so that when we come to sow next week we'll move that there, and so on. And just gently tap that down with your hand to stop the seed blowing away. Nothing hard. And if it's at all dry, then just water them in like that, and there you have your lettuce seed sown in the second half of March. Thanks for watching.